At each of these webinars over the past 4 weeks, we have brought you case studies from farms across the province who have been working with as part of our Beacon, GrassCheck and EIP projects. These farmers are an integral and vital part of AgResearch's work, and we couldn't deliver programmes such as GrassCheck without their help and support. In this evening's video, we will summarise the key messages from the past 4 weeks and look at a range of win-win measures that farmers can take to improve their profitability and lower their carbon footprint. Let's meet the farmers.
Frank Turley from Downpatrick, farm in partnership with my father and mother, farming 500 acres and we're a suckler cow to beef system.
My name is James Henderson. I'm farming here outside Kilkeel in County Down in the southeast corner of the county along the coast. We're farming about 150 acres of land, and it's very much a grass-based system. We have both a lowland flock of sheep, 250 ewes, and we breed our ewe lambs as well, and then we have a dairy origin beef herd of between 80 and 90 calves are bought in every year.
Hi, my name is Hugh Harbison and I'm farming here in Aghadowey, which is between Aghadowey and Coleraine. We're milking 180 odd calving cows, calving them all in 12 weeks, producing 8,000 litres off about 2 tonnes a meal, supplying Deal Farm with our milk.
My farm is situated just outside Ballycastle in North Antrim. It's just over 200 acres of predominantly quite sandy ground, slightly unusual in Northern Ireland, and it's all grass. We have there's a suckler herd and a sheep enterprise breeding mule ewe lambs predominantly for the replacement ewes for lowland sheep farmers. And then a small pedigree flock of blue Leicesters.
Johnny Blair, I farm in partnership with my father and my mother. We farm just shy of 300 acres here in the northwest. We face out towards Donegal. All of our land is north facing, so we get very little of the south facing sun. We are all sucklers. We have somewhere in the region of around 90 cows, trying to take everything through to beef that we can, but we do sell live as and when we need to. We are trying to target a more of a low input system here now as opposed to a high production system.
I'm Thomas Steele. I farm here in Kircubbin, County Down, in partnership with my parents and my brother. We're currently milking just shy of 600 cows on farm, with all young stock that are kept for replacements. We operate a high input, high output system, and cows are housed 365 days a year.
How you doing? I'm Ian McClelland. I farm here down in Brickland, Banbridge. We're on 100 cows or so, doing 10,000 litres. We try and graze as much as possible.
Increasing production efficiency isn't exactly a new message, but it is still a very important one. It's about ensuring that you get optimal output for your inputs. This is not only good for the environment, but it is also good for your business, because when we don't get good outputs for inputs, we have waste. This means more cost and less income per ewe and more emissions to the environment. The farmers featured in this video set targets. They regularly monitor performance against those targets, and if they are not meeting those targets, they take prompt action to address the issue. Key targets include slaughtering cattle under 24 months, calving dairy and suckler replacements at 24 months, and a calving index of close to 365 days. Using the right genetics is also a powerful tool for improving your efficiency and lowering your carbon footprint.
So this was all about here, where everything's a grass-based system here on a rotational grazing paddock-based system. Maximising the amount of grass we can grow. Everything through on the farm is brought through to beef and finished off grass. There's no concentrate or little to no concentrate finished on the farm. Cattle are sold under 24 months old, averaging about 310 to 15 kilos dead weight. The steers and heifers across the board. Predominantly we're a spring calving herd. Cows start calving from the end of January onwards, and they're for about 9 weeks the cows will calve. Cows, one calf per year, so our calving index is about 363, and we're calving our heifers under 24 months old. Everything is calving in the early spring really because we're trying to get our cattle away before the 4 months of age and off grass. So the early spring, so the animal going into the winter time is a big animal when it's weaned off the cow. Targets are really met with just, our big thing is trying to grow as good a quality forage in front of the cattle at all times. Along with genetic merit, we're trying high ABV bulls, AI bulls coming through genetics onto the cows to try and have a bigger and better terminal sire coming across all the time for carcass gain and performance. Cattle are weighed about every 8 weeks on the grazing season when they're brought in, whenever they'll be dosed or whatever other maintenance is needed done on the way through, to constantly perform performance monitoring to make sure cattle are performing, and if they're not, we can adjust the system and bring them out and rebatch and allocate to different grasses, different groups or whatever, to try and maximise performance on them all the time.
Along the way, we have targets at weaning, we have targets at turnout, we have targets throughout our first grazing season at housing, and the important thing in the whole system is both grass quality, grass availability, and then good quality silage over the winter periods as well, just to be able to achieve those targets.
We calve all our heifers at 20 more months. So for me, that starts off whenever the calf's born at this time of year. We ensure the calf gets lots of colostrum, and then we have a very vigorous vaccination policy for pneumonia, and then we regularly weigh the calves throughout the first year and then on into the second year. And then in terms of those animals, as they're coming to breeding now, we're making sure those animals are on really good grass at the minute, after grass from third cut silage, and we're ensuring they're on the right target and they're on the right and plane of nutrition for breeding in December.
Grassland is the bedrock of our dairy, beef and sheep farming systems. It accounts for over 90% of our agricultural area. Improving our grassland management will improve the quantity and quality of grass grown, reducing the need for purchased feed. Grassland measurement is still at the heart of this. You can't effectively manage what you don't measure. Silage quality is also a critical success factor. Cussing good quality leafy silage is essential for livestock performance. For the past few decades, our grassland has been mainly comprised of monocultures or perennial ryegrass, which relies on manufactured fertiliser. This system is simple to operate and has worked well for many years. However, there are increasing pressures to reduce the use of manufactured fertiliser, which was one of the principal sources of N2O and accounts for around 20% of farmers' greenhouse gas emissions. Added to this, the weather has most certainly not been playing ball in recent years, hence the need to improve the resilience of our grassland. Clovers will have an increasingly important part to play. Grass clover sorts can achieve good yields comparable to high fertiliser use, but they require a much higher intensity of management than grass monocultures. They are much more fussy when it comes to P, K and pH and require nurturing during early life. Transitioning farms to clover is a long-term endeavour, not a quick fix. Multiple species swards are more niche and certainly aren't for everyone, but they do have a role to play on drier farms and have been proven to reduce the need for anthelmintics. There is increasing interest in the use of protein crops. Many of these are leguminous and so need little in the way of nitrogen fertiliser. In addition, they can replace purchased proteins such as soya in the diet, which can help lower your carbon footprint.
Initially, I was doing the grass measuring probably for GrassCheck and on a weekly basis and keeping the records, but as time went by, I very quickly found the benefit of seeing the level of grass growth we had, looking at my wage, how much grass I had available, whether I had a surplus or a deficit, and be able to adjust accordingly. Now doing it for GrassCheck is almost a secondary concern because it's a priority that I have on a weekly basis, just to be able to measure, to see what grass growth is on a daily basis over each week, and then to compare that with the level of demand that there is through looking at my wage. And if I have a surplus, I'm very quickly then able to take out some of those surplus paddocks for bales. If I have a deficit coming, I'm maybe able to slow down the rotation and bring in some of those surplus bales to feed, so that I've got forage in front of my stock throughout the season, whether it's grass or sometimes in the case of good quality bale silage. I suppose now since 2016 we have been operating paddock systems for our cattle initially, and then we've also introduced it to the sheep, and we found that a great benefit. Most of our fields are 6, 7, 8 acres in size, and to really graze those out properly is very, very difficult to do. So we split them into, for the cattle it's into 2-day paddocks, the sheep it's into 3-day paddocks, but it means that we concentrate on one area of the field and it's grazed down to covers of 1600 in the early springtime, and then we move them around to the next paddock, and that allows the previous one time to get up and the leaf to get going again, and it, apart from growing more grass, we're utilising the grass better, and the stock seem to thrive very well because we're able to present them with good leafy swards at each grazing.
I think grass measurement's important for us because we're quite far north on reasonably heavy soil, and our grass growth will be reasonably slow in the spring, March and April, but from mid-April to mid-May it just totally takes off. And it takes a lot of managing, and the information we get from GrassCheck, and just particularly walking our farm once a week and seeing what the fields are doing, allows you to take fields out and ensure good quality grass throughout the spring and summer months, and allows you to budget and see how much grass is available for the cows.
On our silage operation, again trying to make as good high quality forages as we can to sort of reduce the amount of bought in concentrates. On the farm here, our ground was quite early, and we can actually get away with making 4 to 5 cuts of silage per year. First cut will normally start anytime sort of end of April, start of May, and then we're consistently cutting about every sort of 5 or 6 weeks after that. That high quality silage is sort of the key to our system here, and we need that consistent silage to maintain high levels of milk production. When we initially, I suppose, went to multi-cut system, what we have noticed, I suppose, a big difference is just we don't really end up with such a bad cut of silage. All our cuts are the same, and for our cows here, we need the same ration 365 days a year, and our first cut, second cut, third cut, there's not a massive difference in them quality-wise, and I say we can sort of feed those to all our stock on the farm here. So I say consistency would be a lot more uniform.
Traditionally, whenever we've bought a grass seed mix, we've always had that kilo of white clover in it, and we've never gone away from that. We've always saw the benefit there, and we're grazing paddocks maybe 2 years out of every 3. We're taking silage out on the 3rd year, and we're moving around in that rotation where we're allowing and encouraging the clover in the swards each year. And that has meant we have been able to ease back a little bit on the use of nitrogen fertiliser. And then, as you said there, we've introduced red clover a few years ago, and that has been made into big bale silage to be fed to young calves. And again, well, that's just grown on slurry and no nitrogen fertiliser, and that has been a really good benefit there. High protein forage with no nitrogen fertiliser.
So we've got about 15 hectares of multi-species in now on the grazing platform. As you can see behind us here, this is one of the paddocks, and it's done really well. This field has grew about 9 tonnes of dry matter per hectare this year with no artificial nitrogen on it at all, and the cows seem to really do well on it. It's not all plain sailing. There's obviously weed pressure. We've direct drilled this paddock you're looking at here. We direct drilled it last year into spring oat stubble, and I think that's been a real good job, and it allowed us to manage the weeds before drilling it, particularly the docks. There's also the problem with the openness of the sward, and whether it'll have the longevity as other grassland swards on the farm, and it'll be interesting to see the results over the next few years. There's no denying the fact that the newer grass varieties are better performing, better quality. The cattle seem to do well on them, so we're just managing those and reseeding as much as we can, and keeping an eye on the soil nutrient status and making sure pH is right, P's and K's, and just getting the basics right, really. Get those right, things usually fall into place okay.
So certain soil types that's on the farm, we have found certain herbs there in the dry weather when it's coming in, or certain herbs are getting us where we'd be buying maybe another 10 days to 14 days throughout the grazing season if it was a prolonged period of dry weather, which is a big thing, ensuring fodder is in front of the cattle. And also the clovers are doing a very good job at, when it does turn dry, they're covering the ground cover, trying to cover to stop direct sunlight, so stopping any evaporation out of the ground or moisture being pulled out of the ground from then. So we're buying a few extra days to a week longer in the grazing seasons, which mightn't seem like much, but it's a whole lot whenever it comes into the whole picture of the whole thing. So.
We've quite a few multi-species swards down now, and quite a diverse multi-species swards with about 14 or 15 different species of plant in it. Seeing a lot of benefit from the point of view of being able to grow at any time of weather conditions, shall we say. It's not affected by drought, or it's not affected necessarily by excessive rainfall events. Opening up the ground and the soil is as much of an importance to me as it is what it can grow above the ground. I think quite often as farmers we forget just how important the soil is to our businesses, and having a diverse mix in a field setting in your soil is very beneficial for the microbes under the soil. It's very beneficial for keeping your sward or your soil open and aerated.
Looking at the way prices have gone, etc., we're always looking, homegrown forages are the cheapest. We have, over the past few years, we've increased our maize acreage, and I said we try to grow a lot of forage maize, again for starch value. We also have started growing lucerne, and again we've found that has reduced the amount of bought-in protein that we need on farm here.
So that's the field of lucerne here. That's since first year. So it's a bit of a trial plot. There isn't many people growing lucerne in Northern Ireland. So along with AFBI, the research institution, this is one of our newest research projects we've been coming along on. It's the second cut now. It's the first week of September, and this is the second cut that's been taken off it. More than happy with establishment coming forward. People are telling us how hard it is to establish and stuff, but we got this on a good establishment in the spring and a good first cut, very little weed problems, and again, second cut has been a very good crop stand the whole way through. More than happy with it. Reasons for growing it, again, high fodder costs, high inputs. If we have to buy in meal or whatever, protein's a very dear part of the feed ration. So if we can grow homegrown proteins on farm to make it readily available for the cattle, this is what we're doing. We're a big square bale system here, so as you can see, these are square bales here. It's been cut with a disc mower, scattered immediately, left it for 24 hours, rode up 24 hours after cutting, and then the following morning it's in the bale, and we reckon somewhere in the region between 30 to 40% dry matter in these bales at every time. So it's a good source of protein for the cattle that'll be feeding young growing cattle over the winter time, either on kale or if they're standing out in the field as a be added supplement along with the winter grazing.
Several years ago we were involved in an AFBI project involving low protein, and it was just one of those things that I suppose at the time we were just looking maybe trying something different, and I'd sort of heard a few good reports about it, and it's just something we were quite interested in at the time. We run like 2 different batches, and we're looking sort of what we'd been doing before and then a low protein batch. So basically we were restricting the protein in that first period and then just slowly ramping the cows up then afterwards. What we probably seen initially were cows were a wee bit slower to peak. They didn't maybe peak just as quickly, but what we found was later in lactation they continued milking on and we didn't get a sudden drop off. So what we maybe lost initially were more than gained it in later lactation cows. It actually worked very well with us as well, because we're 3 times a day milking here on the farm, and we would tend to find with milking those low yielding cows 3 times, we were getting the lactation was extended and more milk was being produced.
Nutrient management in grassland is an important topic both for the farmer and for the environment. The price of manufactured fertilisers, and compound fertilisers in particular, has increased considerably in recent years. This makes it all the more important that farmers optimise the use of their organic fertilisers, namely slurry and farmyard manure. Soil testing is an essential component. A pH of 6 or above is critical to ensure that you get the full economic value out of your fertilisers. Lessee application will further enhance the uptake of nutrients. Some of our farmers are now seeing benefits from using precision fertiliser application technology.
Yeah, on the farm, recently, due to legislation, we have started spreading slurry with dribble bar. Again, we've found that probably regrowth will be a lot quicker, and especially with our multi-cut system, we need to get the slurry out quickly, get fertiliser applied to allow that to grow again, and for cutting the next time. We've also, I suppose, maybe been targeting our slurry a lot better. With the closed period, slurry's been kept on farm here during the winter. We can then use that slurry to grow good crops of maize, and also for our silage as well. We'll be able to reduce the amount of bought-in fertiliser that we're actually using. All maize is grown on farm purely through cow slurry and farmyard manure. There's no actual bagged fertiliser applied to that.
We started using the less spreading about 3 years ago on the fertiliser sower. It came early spring that year, so we're very happy with using it. We've found that we can go on to grazing ground a bit more often, doing less damage and less refusals when the cows go back in. So that's been a big benefit with the spreading, the fertiliser spreader. It came early that spring and it has been very successful. It's very, very accurate, and spreads to the GPS as well.
We started applying slurry and very dilute slurry and dirty water to our grazing platform to try and reduce our use of artificial nitrogen. We found this year particularly it has allowed us to reduce our fertiliser usage by up to 15% on our grazing platform this year, so it's been a real good job, and I think our soils and our grass quality is very good too because of that, and I've been reasonably happy with it.
We fertiliser spread on farm using a variable rate fertiliser spreader with GPS. It's early days with this technology. We have it actually linked to the tractor for yield mapping, which is in turn can be synced with the forage harvester from the contractor, and it's something I suppose in the future, and it's early days technology yet, but I think we'll be able to use this technology to increase productivity and also be more efficient in our fertiliser usage on farm.
You can spread very accurately with the spreader. You're not wasting any fertiliser whatsoever, which especially last year was a very good when prices were £1,000 a tonne, so you didn't want to be losing too much.
Energy efficiency is also an important means of lowering your carbon footprint. This can include installing renewable energy such as solar or wind, or the use of LED lighting, heat recovery units, plate coolers and variable speed vacuum and milk pumps. Managing our above ground carbon stocks, namely trees and hedges, can also help lower our carbon footprints. This also provides a number of other valuable services, as Patrick Casement describes.
Farmland trees provide a whole lot of benefits. They provide shelter, and that's particularly important on my farm because we're very exposed to the North Atlantic, just less than a mile away. They provide carbon sequestration in a way that we know for sure that carbon is actually being sequestered in a way that soil doesn't do. They provide shade in the summer, and that could become increasingly important as the climate changes perhaps. And they improve the soil porosity and structure underneath them, and provide nutrients through the fall of leaves, the deciduous trees anyway, through the fall of leaves in the autumn. So they provide a range of benefits, apart from the fact that they just look beautiful.
Lowering carbon footprint can seem like a big, scary topic to many farmers. But in reality, the first steps to lowering carbon emissions is ensuring that your farm is operating as efficiently as possible. That's a win for the farmer and a win for the environment. If you are interested in finding out more about carbon benchmarking and mitigation options, then there are a range of excellent materials available on the AgResearch and CL websites.